Hi everyone. Today I'm interviewing Chris Morledge from Copper Bay Digital. I'm really excited to be interviewing Chris. I first met Chris 5 years ago now, and he was pretty much a solopreneur doing apps in the education market. And he'll tell us about our journey during the course of today, which I'm sure is going to inspire many of you. But he's now acquired 4 businesses and has got a staff of 21. So really looking forward to hearing about Chris's journey and what he can share in terms of business owners and your journey and what you can learn from that journey. So first of all, Chris, it'd be great if you could just give us an introduction to your business and the problems that you solve for your customers.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Rod, for having me on. So the business we've run, as you mentioned, is Copper Bay Digital. That's kind of the lead business it is. And we effectively solve kind of the digital marketing needs and the digital transformation needs for organizations we do. We've a primary focus on membership space over the last kind of 18 months or so, but 50-50 split at the moment with regards to the kind of clients we're working with. So we're there to support those businesses who get stuck, I think, in their digital journey and their growth journey. Regards to they're needing more leads, we can support them in generating those additional leads. If they need to get those leads, convert them into actual sales, so they're getting enough leads but they're not converting them, we can provide the processes and tools to help with the conversions. And we can also just help with the operations of the business, by providing the right tools to help them run their business, and even down to the kind of their customer experiences through like mobile apps and things like that. So yeah, we kind of cover that whole digital space, we do. And we, alongside Copper Bay, we have another agency called Ascendancy, and they do a very similar thing, and that's from one of the acquisitions we've had last year. And we're actually, there's a process of kind of merging those to solve, because they're solving the same problem. So we're kind of merging those to solve those problems for those businesses in the future.
Amazing. So what inspired you to run your own business?
I guess it's always been in me to want to run a business. I guess freedom is something that every business owner is looking for, even though it's questionable whether you actually receive that as the business owner. But yeah, being master of my own destiny, being able to choose kind of my own path. And I think just running teams is really interesting to me as well. It is. I like the operational kind of model of a business. I like to kind of tweak a business to have the operational model working really well. And I enjoyed that when I was working kind of in businesses and employed roles. I took sort of leadership roles to help kind of work on that business model. And I thought, yeah, take all those combined kind of made me think, okay, running my own business made sense.
So is it something you always wanted to do, was to run your own business?
It was, yeah, I guess it grew over time, like everything. Obviously, my background has been software development. So I did 20 years of being a software developer effectively. So writing software. And for me, software development was problem solving. It is. You're always, every day you're coming to work, you're solving problem. You just happen to be using code. You did. And then I went into leadership roles, and I think that problem solving nature was something that I enjoyed doing outside of the coding side of things from a business perspective. So yeah, so it kind of grew in me. As I guess when I was younger, I didn't even realize it was an option. I guess I never even assumed that I could run a business, and maybe if I did, I might have done it earlier. But I guess over as I kind of got a bit older and as I kind of grew in my roles, it came to me, actually, there's no reason why I couldn't run my own business.
Amazing. And as I sort of touched on in the introduction, when we first met, you're pretty much solopreneur, arguably trading time for money. So, it might be a business, it's still a job.
Yeah.
And then you sort of gone on the acquisition trail. Was there something that sort of triggered that? Was it just circumstance, or was there something that you thought, actually, that would be a good way to help build what I want to build?
I think acquisition came to me as an option for me, as a kind of a route to me, because I kind of got into wanting to run my own business a little bit later in life, in my kind of mid 30s, kind of late 30s. By then, obviously, then you have a lot of, you have a family, you have mortgages, you have bills to pay. So it was a case of, do I want to go down that route of a complete startup with the challenges of a complete startup? And I felt, okay, maybe buying an established business, buying a business that's already got revenue is a better route into kind of business ownership than starting from scratch and having those challenges regards to cash flows and investments and all of that sort of stuff. So I think partly, so maybe due to circumstances, was around actually acquisition felt a better route rather than starting from doing a startup.
And just sticking with that for a minute, I mean, Did you find it challenging? Because I'm guessing quite a few people think, acquisition, that seems a tough route to go down. How did you find that?
At the beginning, as you imagine, yeah, I had to learn a lot on acquisition, and I spent a long time, good couple of years, kind of researching it, watching videos and listening, reading about it. As you do it, the more you do it, the easier you find it actually is. I think the barrier is not maybe as high as people assume it is, because the hard part about acquisition is finding someone that actually wants to sell. It's as simple as that. You can speak to lots of businesses, and I've spoken to many businesses over the years, and they say they want to sell, but actually 5 years later they're still not sold, and it's kind of they maybe what they're looking for in the sale is probably not what is not the actual realization of what a sale actually is. So yeah, there's many assets to obviously how to do an acquisition, but no, I think actually once you're able to, if you do enough research around it, it is something that is anyone can do. It is with the support around you. There's lots of things you have to cover, regards to finance, regards to the legal side, but I think it's not as scary maybe as people think it is.
Wow, no, that's a brilliant share. We'll find that quite interesting. So, what do you think's the hardest thing you've been through on this journey, and how did you overcome it?
I guess so. My first acquisition, as you mentioned, was around a SaaS product. So it was to do with the school travel industry. It was, and I acquired that in kind of mid 2019, and worked on that for a few months as the developer as well. Obviously, solopreneur, kind of the person developing the software plus selling the software. I already had a few customers, so it was kind of working with those customers to improve the software. And then the target was a big launch in February 2020. We kind of rebuilt the software. We had some marketing strategy set up. We were going to launch in February 2020. Obviously, February 2020, COVID hit, travel stopped completely for schools. And actually, schools were one of the first people to stop traveling and one of the last people to start traveling again, especially overseas. So the biggest challenge in regards to the acquisition kind of route was that business. You acquired that business and the market changed and it made that business a lot less viable. So it came as a route. I needed to pick a new route effectively. I did. And yeah, and then one of the ways out of that, I tried a bit of pivoting of that software. I did, but ultimately the quickest route out of that was I actually acquired my first agency. I did. And that's been the path maybe for the last 4 years or so.
Wow, so it was an acquisition that was what really overcame that challenge and got you to the next stage.
It was, yeah. It was a bit fortuitous, kind of managed to speak to the right people at the right time who was interested in selling. And yeah, it was the acquisition was kind of the root out of that one particular problem. Yeah.
Amazing. So, what do you think has been your biggest learning, as a business owner on your journey?
I guess people is the key. As mentioned earlier, I started off as a individual, kind of running that individual business. I was doing the software building, I was doing the marketing. I did have a little bit of a help from a freelancer to kind of help with a bit of the client support. And back then, I probably thought that was the route, being software. And I think because I was so software focused at that time, and a lot of talk around the time was around kind of the minimum viable businesses and things like that. You got this really lean team and all that. I thought I could go ahead on my own and do this. And I think what I've learned by moving into that service space, which of the agency, is actually being able to get the right people in place, being able to rely on them to deliver on the jobs you ask them to do. It's a multiplier. It is bringing those right people in, having the right team is a much bigger multiplier than trying to go it alone, I guess. So yeah, so people is something that I've learned over the last 5 years or so and even going forward, I still see people as the route to me achieving any particular goals that I have.
Fantastic. Would you do anything differently if you started over again?
I guess maybe not buy a travel company just before COVID hit. So obviously hard to predict that one. But I guess leaning into that point there around people, it is so bringing those a bit earlier. I guess obviously people bring their own challenges, like making sure they're the right people and maybe making decisions a bit earlier. I guess obviously the classic case of holding on for people for a little bit longer than maybe you should do. But yeah, I guess making sure I've got the team around me to and then work with that team to build out that future strategy.
And there's been significant growth over the years as well. What do you think you attribute that growth to?
Obviously, the acquisitions has helped. And I guess with the acquisitions, it's risk. I'm quite open to taking a little bit of risk. I am maybe compared to others. I think there's been times where you've had to take a risk to make an acquisition. You've had to take a risk to employ the right person. You have. So I think being kind of not so risk adverse and just being able to take those risks to employ people when you need them, maybe employ them a little bit ahead of time. And maybe I wouldn't always advise that as a route, but sometimes you've got to take that risk on the right people. So yeah, I think being willing to take risks, I think is key to growing any business. It is. I think if you're trying to always keep everything steady and always be in the perfect position to make the next decision, it's very difficult to be there because you're influenced by there's too many influencing kind of factors to have for your business or life or the market to ever be perfect. So you just got to take those risks, I think.
Yeah, no, that's really good share. There's an interesting book called Scale or Fail, and she talks about hiring forward, that concept. Sometimes, you do have to hire forward with that mindset in order to get that growth. So no, that's a brilliant share. In terms of sort of being the managing director stroke CEO of the business, what's the reality of that been like in terms of any sort of expectation you might have had? Quite often people can see it as maybe a bit, I don't know, whether it's the expectation was going to be difficult or challenging or rewarding. And, how have you found it versus what your expectation was?
Yeah, I guess you're definitely not the boss in that sense. I think that's an angle to take is maybe people assume that because you're the CEO, because you're the MD, people will just do what you say. Like it's not how it works. It's people are still people, and you need to kind of bring them along on the journey. You need to convince them that this is the right path. You need to support them just as much as they support you. I guess it's being that CEO, being the MD of any business. You're not someone that you've still got to work that team you have, and it's your job to grow that team, your job to invest in that team. It is, and I think like the way I always see the MD role, it's just a different role in the business. It is. It's just I may happen to own the shares of the business, but ultimately my role is just a different role to someone else that's doing the paid ads marketing, doing the software building. I'm just doing a different task. I've got different responsibilities. So yeah, I think it's just accepting that your role is just one part of the kind of the business, and you've just got different responsibilities to someone else. And so yeah, just treat it that way, and you're all working together on the problem, I guess.
Brilliant. No, I love that. So you've sort of been quite busy in the last 5 years. Has been just going through my notes here, 4 acquisitions. I mean, where do you see yourself and in 5 years' time, over the next 5 years?
I get growth is still key to me. I still see us as early on in the growth path regards to the size of the agency. I'd love to kind of move us to that 30-person agency and not just purely making it on obviously people are one measure of a business, but ultimately being able to support more customers, especially in the membership space. I talked earlier around focusing on the membership space. We're repositioning our target kind of for the next couple of years on the membership space. We are. And so, yeah, really work on that positioning, get it really strong, get our messaging really clear, our value offering. We're looking at building a software solution as well, a SaaS product within that for that audience. We are. So I guess it's, yeah, building on what we have now and using acquisitions as a route to that build. So natural growth plus acquisition growth is key for me at the moment.
Oh, fantastic. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about AI at the moment and different tools and the impact that it's having. And I guess particularly in the digital marketing space, how do you see AI impacting or changing your industry as part of that growth?
Yeah, I guess being in the digital space as a business, AI is massively going to influence and already has massively influenced the way we work, the expectations from clients, and the services we can offer as well. So yeah, hugely will affect us and is already affecting us. But just as much as I believe it'll also affect every business, every industry, every job in different variations, and it's going to kind of keep spreading as time goes on. And so for us, AI, we see it as at the moment a tool kind of to either work better or faster, or maybe hopefully both, on any particular current activities that we're working on, whether it's the way we're working with clients, whether it's the content we're generating, whether it's the ads we're creating, the campaigns. So using it as a problem-solving tool. And yeah, like I say, also from a data and analytics point of view, we're building out a SaaS product which is focused on metrics, and using AI to interpret those metrics and make decisions based on those metrics. And finally, we're also using it as a way of taking a client's kind of IP. So if they're a membership organization, they have their manuals, they have their guides, they have their kind of books on how they deliver their services and the value and support they offer. So vectorizing that content using AI and then making it so people can access that information on a much more streamlined in a much more streamlined way. So yeah, AI, I think, is definitely in our market already, but there's also a risk. It is because it obviously, in the sense of competitors, it's much easier to get from 0 to 1 now with AI. It is there's a lot more knowledge out there, accessing that knowledge. There is so yeah, so I think it's hard to understate, I think, the impact that AI would have on the digital marketing, digital transformation space, but also for our clients, we need to consider how it's affecting them as well.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds as though you're keeping up to date with all the latest trends and what's happening, which I guess you've got to, as you say, not just for your so you can serve your clients, but also so you're in terms of other people and what they can do, potentially disrupt the market. I guess it's really important. Do you see there's any going in 2025, or sort of a couple of months in? Are there any particular economic challenges that you think you're going to need to prepare for?
I don't think there's anything new, in the sense of, I think it was a difficult year for agencies and for businesses probably overall last year, and I felt like it's continued into this year. You're always looking for those kind of sprouts of optimism that you are through government policies and news articles and all of that. So I guess the only thing I would say is, for us, we try not to focus too much on that, because we just focus on things we can control. And I do believe there's still plenty of space for us to show our value and reach new audiences and reach new people. So yes, even though there's always a concern in the back of everyone's mind, I think we just focus on what we can achieve and the differences we can make and how we can improve our business. Because I think there's still plenty of business out there. It's just making sure we're the ones that are kind of seen as the people that can solve that problem. So yeah, nothing specific, but just generally continuing. I don't think it would massively change from last year regards to the challenges, I think, from an economy point of view.
No, and I love that. And I love there's a coach, Frank Dick, that used to be a great sports coach and is now still in the sports arena, but also executive coaching. And he talks about controlling the controllables and, focusing on the things you can control. So no, I love that. Is there any one particular focus, though, for the business right now that you think is the most important thing to be focusing on?
I guess it's keep pushing on our repositioning. So we've been niching our business over the last 18 months or so. So we're trying to stay away from the word niche, maybe just repositioning our kind of offering we have. And yeah, it's just still pushing ahead with that. It's a challenge to make those inroads into the new markets. It is making ourselves known and someone that wants to be and people aspire to want to work with. So it's pushing that, really. And I guess alongside that as well, we've talked earlier around the kind of two kind of agencies and merging those together into a single entity, and just making sure that we structure ourselves and position ourselves internally as well to deliver those kind of aligning with the challenges that our clients have. So yeah, it's making those inroads into our new kind of membership market space. It is, and make sure our business is aligned with those challenges. It is, and runs efficiently. We've got a new leadership team in place. We're kind of so making sure they're looking after their team and all that. They've got the tools they need to keep growing their individual departments. So yeah, just a lot of challenges, a lot of things we can control that we can action on.
Brilliant. And on a personal level, with all this sort of going on, do you sort of have a daily routine that works well for you in terms of giving you a balance? And we touched on business owners wanting to try and get freedom earlier, but in terms of your that work-life balance, how are you finding that? Have you got something that works for you?
I guess It's not something I overly focus on, if I'm honest. I love what I do. I love coming to work every day. I love delivering. But likewise, I also give time to my family, and my wife is in the business as well. So we spend time in that space as well. But obviously I've got a daughter, so I need to spend time with her. So it's something that I feel I'm in control of. It is. But there are times when I'll kind of really triple down that focus on the business and work the extra time, work the extra hours. There'll be time when I can put that time into my family. I'm more of a rather than consistently putting that time. Which I do have anyway. There are consistent times, but generally, I'm like, okay, well, I'm happy to focus on the problem and solve the problem over a couple of days or weeks that it needs to be, and then I'll take the time when it's needed, sort of thing. So, yeah, I find I have a good balance. I do personally, but it's not. But I appreciate not everyone likes to work the way I work. So, but hopefully, I'm sure those business leaders are probably similar to me, where they kind of really like to focus on their business and enjoy and sometimes enjoy. They see this as the fun part, coming into work, delivering the problem, solving problems, growing their business. That's actually the enjoyable part. It is. So yeah, maybe it's not as bad as sometimes it's seen from the outside.
Yeah, I have had experience of working with some clients where when we started working, they were doing 6 to 7 days a week, 80 hours, and they'd not had a holiday for 6 years. So
Yeah.
you're not quite at that.
I'm not in that space. Definitely not. No.
Oh, fantastic. So, Chris, just remind us, what are the problems that you solve for people, and what you can help people with right now?
Yeah, so anyone that has a business that feels stuck in any way regards to growth, and they feel that either more leads, more customers can help solve that, so we can support them in generating those leads, converting those leads to sales, or anyone feels that they may have the customers, but the operations just too sticky and they need support in improving the operations of their business, and so whether that's through systems, whether that's through mobile apps. So yeah, so anyone that's stuck in feels like they're stuck in their business regards to a growth aspect and looking to grow, I think we have the teams involved that can just can support them, and even just from a strategy point of view and an ideas point of view, we can help them figure out the best route out of where they are today to where that next stage is. So yeah, anyone that needs that support in that digital space, we're definitely around to help.
Brilliant. Now that sounds amazing. So how can people find out either more about you or the services, or reach you? What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, best way to reach me is chris@copperbaydigital.co.uk is an email address, or you can come to our website, copperbaydigital.co.uk, or I'll kind of I mentioned the sister agency, Ascendancy, which is ascendancy.agency. All those will outline the services we offer, the case studies we've done to support businesses, and obviously contact details on how to take any steps if you want a conversation.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for your time today, Chris. That's been amazing. There's been some really good learnings there. I'm sure there's people going to watch this, and there's going to be some stuff that really resonates where they are on their journey, particularly the stuff you shared around acquisitions. And I like, the fact that you said we have the formula for success, which is dreams, goals, learn, plan, action. And as you said, you spent a couple of years within that learning phase, to get things right and understand the sorts of things you need to do. So, that was a brilliant share. So yeah, no, fantastic. Thanks for your time. Is there anything you just want to wrap up with, at the end of the interview now?
No, just say thank you very much. It was good to have a chat. And I think anyone that is interested in growing, in starting a business themselves, or keen to maybe take risks, I think it's definitely worth it. It is. I think if that's in you, I think I would definitely recommend taking those risks and just going ahead with it, because nothing's ever irreversible. So there's always options going forward if needs be.
Wow, that's a brilliant way to finish. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rod.